Morning, everybody. I hope you had a good sleep. Just for those of you that have just arrived, we'll do some introductions a little bit later in the program. But if you have just arrived, I'm Maddie Probst. I'm managing producer at Watershed in Bristol, UK. I'm also the Vice President of Europa Cinemas, and it brings me great pleasure to see us coming together and starting our workshop. I'm going to hand over to Frank, who's going to kick off with a bit of a presentation from his cinema. And and then you'll hear a little bit more about where I come from.
Good morning, everybody. Like Maddie said, my name is Frank. Well, most of us have met each other already yesterday during a very nice dinner and introductions. Just one general house rule, also on behalf of the festival. I see you all have your mouth masks on. That's very good. Well, as you can see, we don't. And that is because if you speak, you can take your mouth mask off, but please keep then a bit of distance. Especially the first part of this session is going to be live zoomed, and we want to give the good example, of course. Let me see and go to the right slide. Yes, there we go. Of course, we are still wearing the mouth masks. So we thought it's good to start this whole lab with a session. Where are we coming from? So that we have a little bit of understanding how it has been for everybody. And from there on, we'll just look at the future and all the things that are going to happen despite COVID, past COVID, and so on. But just before, you've all done your introduction in front of the room yesterday already, but Maddie and I haven't done that yet. So who are these two people that are talking all the time? So I'm from Kino Rotterdam. It's a cinema we founded, me and my business partner, 4 years ago in Rotterdam. It's actually in the building. You can see it in one of the images in which the Rotterdam Film Festival was born. So the building is way older than we are. But it became empty, and 5 years ago we restarted a cinema there with the idea that between art house and commercial cinemas there is such a big world. Me personally, I love to watch James Bond movies as well as Tarkovsky movies, and so does my business partner, and we like to have a nice drink with it before and after, and a restaurant. So this was the main idea, to start this cinema in the Netherlands, to renovate it. We've immediately want to become a Europa Cinemas member because it is a fantastic network of which we really wanted to contribute and also learn from other people. I'm sorry, is the live stream on? Okay, sorry, yes. I'm sorry, welcome also everybody on the live stream. Forgot to give the signal. So we have 4 rooms, and very important for our cinema is classics programming and specials programming, because we try to create events to which the people will come, because of course there's many things like Netflix, HBO and all the other sorts, but we as cinemas have something they all don't. We can create fantastic atmospheres and create fantastic events every time people come watch a movie with us, and actually that's 30% of our programmation, and the rest are premiere titles. So here you see some of the events. In the bottom corner we had our Dress to Impress Wes party for Wes Anderson. A lot of people showed up as their favorite Wes Anderson characters. And of course his new film came out now, and actually some people, this was for Isle of Dogs, but some people still decided to dress up because I liked it so much last time. Who says the Dutch people aren't crazy? And some other events you can see here, we do a lot of live performances, or sometimes even visuals with a party. In our main auditorium in the top corner, or in the bottom corner, you can see we remove the chairs, and after film people really like to dance. In fact, we also did an open air cinema festival together. It's a very big screen, because the screen is not ours, it's that of Pathé. Pathé is the main commercial, almost monopolist in the Netherlands. They're very big, but actually they're also very friendly, film-minded people. They like their popcorn a bit more than their films maybe, but you can really work with them, and I want to show that as an example, because it's one of the great joys that we've had the last 5 years, that you can join forces with somebody who thinks quite differently. And in the bottom you see our chef and an example of, there was a new Trainspotting movie coming out, and we'll always try to book the old Trainspotting or do other titles that match new titles coming out. But then, of course, COVID happened, and like all of you, we had to shut down for a little while, and we're going to hear some more inspiring COVID stories after. But I just wanted to show what we did, and that was our cooks suddenly were without a job, so we tried a delivery service. This was not a success. I also regret to say, I think the food was really great, people were super happy, but it is really difficult, was one of our lessons, to pivot so strongly. If you're a cinema and you know how to run a cinema, and also maybe a restaurant, that doesn't mean you can run a delivery service. And I hope, and I read in the booklet that some of you made some more successful pivots during COVID. I'll get back to that a bit later, but sometimes things don't always work. What did work was the T-shirts and merchandise we launched. They're still up for sale. Support your local cinema. Works in every country. And we installed here, this is my business partner, Jan. Sorry, Jan, that I brought up this picture. But we installed a DP70 35 and 70 millimeter a projector in our main auditorium, which was great. It was a big search for all the parts. It was in fact inspired by visiting the great Fenomena cinema in Barcelona on a sort of exchange. And by talking, we actually heard, well, it's possible for everybody to install a 70 millimeter. It just takes a lot of work and some money. And we had to give up 10% of our main auditorium because we had to build a new projection booth. So if it's financially feasible, I don't know, but it's brought us great showings thus far. And on the right, you can see we'll talk a bit more about it later also, a online platform that Cineville launched. Cineville is a subscription pass with 50,000 art house subscribers who visit cinemas a lot in the Netherlands, and they launched an online service, and that really got us through the COVID time. So that's about our cinema. That's a bit where I come from. For the rest of the Maddie, for the rest of the sessions, the floor is mainly yours. But first, Maddie, can you show us some about the watershed?
So, hi everybody. Just a little bit about Watershed. Firstly, a little bit about where we're based. We're in Bristol, UK, in the heart of the harbour side, in a kind of grade 2 listed warehouse, and we're on the first floor. We kind of moved into that space as part of a regeneration project in the 1980s. The harbour side had stopped functioning as a harbour, and the area had gone really downhill. So in a way, culture came in to sort of regenerate the area. And we have 3 screens now. We've got a cafe bar, we've got a big event space, but we're also home to a kind of lab, well, a research space that brings together artists, technologists, and academics. And it's funny that we should find ourselves 40 years on grappling once again with regeneration. So post-COVID, the centre's a bit quiet, and we're having to kind of bring people back in. We had plans for a big expansion project. We were going to build a 4th screen downstairs, which would have been absolutely fantastic, but that didn't happen. So instead, we opened an outdoor space. I think you had an outdoor space as well in Rotterdam. Yeah. Did that work?
Yes, outdoor works great. Not like in Greece. We'll hear a bit more about that, but you can do it in rainy countries as well.
So you notice on the picture here, we've got a roof over our outdoor space, which is very good for the UK because it's always raining. And you'll see the artwork here. It was also an opportunity for us to commission a fantastic artist, Lucy Turner, to create artwork in the middle of the city. So for her, it was a great canvas, and also to kind of change the atmosphere of the city. And it's really, I want to go into some of the things we went into during COVID was about reflection and about a pause. As exhibitors, we're always, on the run. We're always kind of on to the next thing. And it was quite good to stop and think, why are we here? What's our role in our community? What's our role in our city? And I think we were on a sort of trajectory to expand. As I said, we were going to build a full screen. You can see this kind of tower at the back. This is not real. This was our dream of expansion, to create a big tower. Because we had this expanded community of creatives, artists, filmmakers, companies, and so on. And we've really put that on pause, partly because of economic reasons, sadly. But also, I think for other reasons, that kind of idea of growth is something that we're reflecting on. Should we always grow? Is it the right way to go? What kind of growth should we go for? So some of the things that happen is a number of organizations, cultural organizations, and our city council signed up to Culture Declares a Climate Emergency. And what does that mean? Well, it means that we're all trying to work together to kind of get to be carbon neutral by 2030, which is a massive endeavor. It's a big, big project. And yeah, it's made us think about new ideas about growth. So things like the Kate Raworth's donut economy, which is taken off in a big way in Amsterdam. But this idea of proposing of, where's that sweet spot between growth and actually sustainability? So these are the kind of things we're thinking about. What does that mean for Watershed itself? Well, it's a big piece of work. And we're lucky to have been joined by Zoe Rashbash, who comes from a kind of climate activist background and who's working with us on a framework, which you can see the beginnings of here, which is actually trying to make some of this concrete. And there is a lot of resistance. There's a lot of things that say you can't do it. But to actually build a bit of a strategy to kind of go there. The other big thing that happened, of course, was Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd incident, which kind of sent ripples to our city. We're in a harbour side. We're sadly part of the slave trade triangle. So for our city, there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of wealth that we have to think about, and we're kind of part of that structure, part of that city. So you'll see here the picture of Colston, who was a slave trader being thrown into the water. He was dragged past Watershed and then thrown into the docks. And really, as an organization, as an institution which receives public funding from our city, it was important for us to pause and think, what can we do? We issued a statement, as a lot of organizations did, but what is it that we're going to do to make a change? So here are some of the examples of things we did. I'll just talk about a couple of them. But one of them was to look at representation within our organization. I know a lot of you are thinking about audience development and how do we get young people? How do we get diverse communities? Well, one way of doing it is changing who works in your organization and thinking about who is actually working for you. And, what is their place at the table? Are they working in your kitchen, or are they actually, making programs, or working in marketing, working in management? So the first step for us was to do this survey, which looked at demographic data, but also asked slightly deeper questions about feelings of belonging. How do people feel when they work at Watershed? What's their experience, really? And a lot has come out of that, and we're doing ongoing training with the staff, but also one of the very concrete action, which I think for me was made a big difference, was to look at our recruitment process. So how do we recruit? You know, unfortunately, when you work in something like the exhibition sector, you can sometimes rely on your known networks. So you kind of keep employing people that you know. We do short recruitments, which means you don't always give people a chance to find out about the roles and so on. So we looked at things like longer lead times, things like offering pre-interviews for people that perhaps aren't so represented in the organization, to spend a bit of time with them. Also doing quick chats with people rather than just looking at their CVs, because we're finding like certain demographics are really great at putting things in writing. Others are perhaps better at just sharing who they are and so on. And this is, you know, sending questions in advance, so interviews aren't this big test that puts people under pressure. And we're starting to see the difference. So our team is starting to change. We're starting to get new people into the organization. And I think that will make a really, really big difference, more than us doing all sorts of programming and different initiatives to attract diverse groups. So yeah, that's been a really good experience. And if you're interested in it, there's a whole article that goes into a lot more depth on our website. Continuing, another big thing has been the toilets. So during our closure, we already had some gender-neutral toilets, but during our closure, we kind of thought we should do this a bit more seriously. And this is, you know, something that's not for everybody. Like some applauded, some didn't. But we feel strongly that we should be for everyone. Perhaps the first time we did it, we didn't quite get the kind of signage right and everything, so it got a bit confusing. But this is our new signage, which we hope is very clear, that we are for everyone. And again, going back to some of the things you've said about audience development, you know, think about, are people feeling comfortable coming into your space? You know, are you thinking about that when they come in? And are you for everyone? QR codes, I think, I don't know what your experience has been, but for us it's accelerated some of the things that we wanted to do. So things like table service and audience surveys, it's really helped. We never managed to make them work before. We always hoped to. And suddenly everyone's using them because of COVID. So like the Japan event that we did, we managed to get 40% return on surveys, which was really great. And yeah, it's something we're going to keep on using and building on. Our conferencing, the side of our kind of trading company is doing really, really well. Everyone wants to get married after COVID, and we're a small venue where people can do a small wedding. And this is just really great that it's picking up because it completely stopped during the closure. We are able to offer kind of hybrid offering for whatever types of events because of having the screens and the technical staff. And you know, although we did do a number of partnerships with online platforms, we did some great work with Mubi and with Modern Films. We very much are focusing on the venue experience. That's what we do. That's our USP, and that's where we make our money as well, quite frankly. So a lot of the online experiments for now are just kind of paused a little bit, and we're focusing on getting people through the doors. And you know, we are doing events. We had Jay Clark, who's a Bristol-based storyboard artist, who did individual drawings of Bill Murray onto the French Dispatch magazines, and you know, like that idea of coming to a venue, getting that little surprise, as somebody said yesterday, that little extra is really special. And in terms of programming, I've put some of the titles that have performed really well. I guess the surprise in there is The Green Knight, which we had booked for just 1 week and was on Amazon Prime. It was a bit of a test for us, but we kept it on for 4 weeks, and it's one of our highest selling films. So it goes to show that, you know, yeah, maybe windows aren't such a big deal. Maybe, yeah, medieval films have it's something we should look at. But the headline thing is like audiences are coming back, which is great. And I guess a big challenge, which I'm sure is the case for you, has been about how you rebuild your capacity. So earlier on in the year, we had to make some redundancies. We had to strip back the team. And now we're seeing audiences coming back, the events are taking off and everything, and it's tough. You know, we've got a much smaller technical team, much reduced capacity, and it's a constant balancing act between income generation, staff capacity, and staff well-being as well. And also, audiences are having very different experiences, or they're at very different points of confidence. So, you know, whilst we went up to 75% capacity, we also kept 25% screenings, relaxed screenings, or distant screenings, to make sure, again, we are for everyone. Yeah, we're using data a lot, so we're doing regular audience surveys. If anyone's interested in that, I'm happy to go into a bit more detail separately, but that's been really useful to inform our practice. With having a bit less flexibility with allocated seating, we're having to look at data a lot more as well to make earlier decisions. So things like this visualization of our advanced ticket sales is really useful. I mean, you can see the peak. That's Green Night. That's good. We like that. Yeah, just really briefly, we did put on a festival in July, which I saw as a sort of opportunity to experiment with a lot of things. So one, it was great to bring audiences back together, but some of the things that we will probably keep doing moving forward are things like streaming out high-profile events. So we had Pamela Hutchinson do a talk to about 50 people in cinema. 900 people watched it online. That's great for the profile of the festival. And so streaming out, we will keep. Pre-recorded intros, we will keep, and things like short Q&As. But all of this has made us think about the different types of skills we need from our technical team, the different, you know, we're basically a broadcaster. That's what's happening, and that's requiring more investment. And I just wanted to end with this to just echo some of the things that were said yesterday about the social space and being there as a place that kind of curates and brings together conversations and brings people together. That's what we think the future is all about for us. It's about place. It's about where we are in Bristol. On this hand side, here we had a takeover by a black-led organisation called Cables and Cameras that came and took over the screens, showed films, and brought a really diverse young audience to our cinema, which was great. And on the other side, you've got our programmer Mark Cosgrove interviewing Africa Eye Festival that are coming to our cinema this weekend, and bringing a whole range of like film and music events. And Lola, the young woman underneath, is doing an MA in curation placement with Watershed, and as part of that she's programming a whole season around Jane Campion's new film. And we think partnerships are the key, and people, bringing people together. So yeah, that's it from me.
Thanks, Maddie. So that about us as a brief introduction. So to start off, like I said in the introduction, a little bit, where did we come from? How was it for the other people in Europe? So this is a very sad picture. That was actually made at the time of the online lab last year. And actually it was like this for a big part, of course, of last year. So let's take this at the starting point. This is where we're coming from, where hopefully we won't go back to any time anymore. Although I just received a text that in the Netherlands they're doubting about a 2-week lockdown again. So you never know, but hopefully it will be just one red blip this time. But it was, of course, a very sad moment, as you can see here, 2 cinemas that still try to communicate to the people in the streets, but are very closed. But then, of course, after a little while, first in Asia, they could start opening the cinemas again a bit earlier than we could. But as you can see, they took the cleaning very seriously. And in Kino, at some point, like the Netherlands were one of the first areas in Europe to open again. Well, as you can see, with limited capacity, and we did make a yellow brick road to guide the people a little bit to where they could go. Because, of course, the people also had to get used to going back to the cinemas again. We were quite happy with ourselves, I must say, but then there was this French exhibitor, I think it was MK2, who had a fantastic idea to use the minions to show where you can and could not see it. But there were more and more initiatives as slowly all of us got back to opening our cinemas. How these people are eating their popcorn with the mouth masks, I don't really know, but they seem to be enjoying it. In Germany, of course, there was the great initiative, the nationwide initiative, because there are also many good things that came from COVID, which we'll probably touch upon in the coming days. And one of them is that it brought cinemas together, and also cinemas that maybe hadn't spoken to each other for a little while. They really saw how to join forces. And in Germany, actually, if you have the chance, go to Zurück ins Kino. The website is still live, and actually still very much alive. And it's a platform for sharing tips on how you can events that you can do with your cinema. I think you can even order some free stickers. I don't know if they ship outside of Germany, but you have to see. And here, a very nice open-air cinema with social distancing. I think it was in Bucharest, but sorry, I'm not completely certain. Whose cinema was this again? Yeah, Museum Cinema, yes. We'll hear a bit more about later. And also 3 very inspiring examples. Well, the dog already was shown yesterday. This is the Panatinea Cinema, who turned into a dog shelter in the winter, and decided to keep one of the dogs. On the left, you see the fantastic socks matching the carpet. This is in Middelburg, where they started the cinema club by selling also socks. Simon will tell a bit more about that later. And on the right, my shopping cart at the Lighthouse Cinema, where they did art printing, some beautiful prints, amongst which the 005 Days of Summer notebook, because in Ireland you don't have 500 days of summer, but 005. Some really beautiful stuff, and well, we'll touch more upon that soon. So this is where we came from, as I showed, but luckily for almost all our countries, life's a bit better. Our thoughts go out to the people in Latvia at the moment, because it's and maybe the Dutch soon. But luckily, in most of our cinemas, we can receive the visitors, or with some limitations. But yeah, let's take this a positive vibe, because in the next 4 days there will be many workshops, many topics. You will get the best ideas and practices. I mean, the images I just showed was just the surface. We already heard yesterday during the introductions, there are many great ideas and many skills people are bringing to the lab. We'll talk about the future of our art houses and our cinemas in all facets. We're going to encourage you a little bit and ourselves too to dream 5 years, to dream collaborations, to dream all sorts of future. And we're very happy to have some sales agents with us as well, who are really at the front line of the film market, getting the films from the producers and directors, and from whom as cinemas we can learn a lot, and hopefully, well, I'm actually pretty certain we can also learn them on how it is on the ground, and maybe we can get some collaborations as well. Because that's the final point. The lab is here to network. Online labs have been great, but now we really have the boots on the ground, and we can really set up collaborations or think of collaborations. Yeah, that's that for the opening talk. And hereby I also have to end, unfortunately, the live session by people all over Europe, whoever you are.